Hello everyone, my name is Sunita and today we'll be starting with lesson number 14 of your SM subject. The title of the chapter is Strategic Analysis and Planning. And the topics that we have to study in this chapter are situation analysis, sort and toss analysis, PERT and CPM, BCG matrix, ENSOF matrix, ADL matrix, General Electric matrix, strategies suggested by Gluck and Josh and Michael Porter. And finally, we'll study about the environment facing the business. Now, let us quickly start with the first topic, that is situation analysis. Now, in the first paragraph, they have written that whenever the top management prepares the strategy and goals of the organization, they definitely do some kind of analysis. Only after the analysis of the internal and external environment, they make these strategies, they make the models which they'll use to achieve the overall goals and objectives of the organization. So management, whenever they prepare the policies, plans to achieve the objectives, they definitely get a thorough understanding about the internal and external environment. They understand what is the vision, mission, objectives of the organization, what amount of resources the organization have, and what is the behavior of the external environment. Now, what is situation analysis? Now, situation analysis is nothing but your environmental analysis, that is analysis of your internal and external environment. This is, as I already told you, is must before you make any kind of strategy. And this analysis is not a one-time process. It is to be conducted periodically. Whenever you want to make strategies, you want to update your strategies. Now, the situation analysis focuses on four important areas. And you have to remember these four areas for your MCQ that may definitely come. Now, the first area during the situation analysis is to focus on the problem. What is the problem that the organization is facing at present? What is the severity of the problem? Whether the problem is very easy to solve or whether it is very difficult? And what is the root cause of that problem? What are the people, or who are the people, who are the stakeholders who are connected with this problem, who are impacted by this problem? And in what context? What is the context in which the problem prevails? What is the background in which the problem has arisen? And what are all those factors that the management can take into account in order to change the problem causing behavior and ultimately find out the solution? So these are the four important things that you should focus upon while doing situation analysis: the problem, the people, the context, and the factors. Now, while doing internal external analysis, you need to study your own capabilities. You need to study about your strengths and weakness. Again, you need to consider who are your customer and what are the liking, disliking of your customers, your competitors, and the broad environment that the organization have, and what is the impact of the changes that goes on in the environment. What are the impact of these changes on the working of the organization? Now, because of this situation analysis, the organization will come to know about its SWOT. If you do internal analysis, you will get an idea about your strength and weakness. And if you do external analysis, you will get an idea about your opportunities and threat. And this makes your SWOT analysis. Now, only after doing the complete SWOT analysis, the organization will come with variety of alternatives that it can use in order to achieve its objective. It will choose the best of these alternatives, and that particular choice is nothing but the strategy made by the top level management. So strategy is always made after doing the complete situation analysis, SWOT analysis. Now, why situation analysis is needed? So as I already told you, situation analysis is something that paves the way for strategy development. If you do proper situation analysis, you will come to you will get the clear picture about what the present situation is. You will get a realistic picture about what challenges are there in the organization environment, what are the opportunities that the organization have, what are the internal resources and constraints that an organization is facing. And only after getting the realistic account of the situation, you can make a realistic plan that can be practically implemented. So that is why it is said that the quality of situation analysis will ultimately affect the quality of strategy you make, the quality of plans you make. Now, the suitability of situation analysis, that is, who should do situation analysis. Now, situation analysis should be done by a team which is made from, the people from different functional areas. People from different functional areas should get together and make a team, a small team, and they should be allotted the task of doing situation analysis. For situation analysis, they should collect data, and this data can be collected by contacting various stakeholders of the organization. These stakeholders include the opinion leaders, service providers, policy makers, partners, and beneficiaries connected with the organization. Now, for data collection, there are various methods. You can go for in-depth interview. You can contact any participant and ask questions and get the information. You can have a group discussion kind of, where number of participants would be accumulated at a place, and there would be one person who would be guiding the group discussion. Community dialogues or small group meetings, you can have meetings, you can have a small task force which will go to the various participants and ask questions. And various kind of workshops, various kind of stakeholders workshop can also be organized in order to get the proper on-hand information. Now, when should we conduct situation analysis? What is the proper timing of conducting situation analysis? Situation analysis can be conducted at the beginning of any program or project, but before developing a strategy, because you are doing situation analysis to prepare a sound strategy. So that's very obvious that situation analysis should be conducted before making your strategy. Now, what are the elements that you should focus upon while doing situation analysis? So there are a few areas which we should definitely focus upon. Now, the first thing that we should focus upon is our product situation. So this basically deals with finding out what kind of products the company is basically dealing in, what kind of products the company is offering to the market at present. And again, this can be further subdivided into finding out what are the main or the core product of the company and what are the secondary or the ancillary product that the company is providing. Again, you should also get the information about who are your customers who are purchasing these products, what are their actual needs. And this should be remembered that customer is a king, and every decision that the business takes ultimately should be tailor-made to suit to the requirement of customer. Because if your strategy is something that satisfies the requirement of customers, then and then only the organization can be successful. So in this first step, the organization has to collect the complete detail about the products that the company is providing, the customers who are purchasing these products, and the needs and demands of customer. The second data that you have to collect is about the competition. Now, competition or competitors are someone who definitely impacts our profit margins. They impact our strategies too. So we have to collect the data regarding our closest competitors. We have to find out what are their core competencies, what are the things that our competitors are best at. And we can also find out the areas in which they are ahead of us and where we are lacking. We can find out in what customer segment the competitors are working, how they are attracting the customers. All this data will definitely help us to mold our policies. Distribution situation, we also have to collect the data about how the company distributes its product to the customer, how the company handles the logistics work, so that we have to understand. Environmental factors, so again, the variety of internal external factor which needs to be considered, definitely their data has to be collected. Also the economic situation of the country, the economic policies of the country, the sociological factor, the society's values, beliefs, taste, preference, that data is also to be collected, because all this ultimately impact the performance of any organization. Now, finally, we have to collect the data regarding the opportunities and threats facing the organization. That is, we have to do SWOT analysis. We have to get a complete understanding about the opportunities in the environment, the threats that may hamper the working of any organization, the strength that makes the business ahead or better than its competitors. Strengths are those favorable situations or favorable elements that gives the company an edge over the competitors, and weakness, the unfavorable kind of things that the company has in its internal environment. So that all you need to collect, and because all these impacts the working of your business. Now then, what is the effectiveness of situation analysis? To judge whether our situation analysis that we did is effective or not. The kind of a situation analysis that we did is effective or not. To judge that, we have to ask few questions. Now, the first question that we should ask is whether the situation analysis that we have done is simple to understand and practical to use. So if the kind of a situation analysis that we did is, simple to understand and it is also practical to use, then and then only it is useful. Otherwise, all that things that you have done, if it is not practically possible to implement that, practically it is not possible to use the data that you have collected in situation analysis, then it is of no use at all. Secondly, whether the situation analysis that you did is clear to even the outsider, the layman. Even the layman should understand the kind of the analysis that you did. And if not, that means your situation analysis is very complex and your employees will also not be able to understand and utilize the data. We should also find out whether while doing situation analysis, we have considered all the important factors that impacts the working of our organization. All the important factors, key factors in our internal and external environment, we should consider that while doing situation analysis. And situation analysis should also help us to decide our future goal. So if our situation analysis is, scoring well on these points, then and then only we can say that our situation analysis is very effective. Now let us quickly understand about our next topic, that is SWOT and TOS analysis. First, we will look at what is SWOT analysis. Now see, as I already told you that every manager is, any manager of the organization is responsible for deciding the mission, vision, goals of the organization. Then they have to prepare a proper plan which they'll use to achieve these objectives. And manager would prepare a proper plan or the strategy only on the basis of sound analysis of the environment. Now there are a variety of tools that we can use to get a proper understanding of our environment. And SWOT and TOS are, those tools which guide us to do proper situation analysis. So what they are saying is that SWOT is a tool that helps us in strategic analysis, or strategic analysis nothing but your environment analysis. So with the help of SWOT, you can do proper environmental analysis. The SWOT takes into consideration the examination of both our internal and external environment. By studying your internal environment, you will get to know about your key assets, that is your strengths and your weakness. And by doing your external analysis, you will get an idea about the future opportunities and the threats that any organization is facing. So SWOT is a helpful tool which is useful to the managers for preparing a sound and proper strategy. Now SWOT is an acronym where strength is S, W means weakness, O is opportunities, and T is threats. Now the important point for your MCQ is there. Now the origin of the SWOT analysis is supposed to be rooted in force field analysis, which is pronounced by K. Levin. K. Levin is basically Kurt Lewin. The full name is Kurt Lewin. Please remember his name. So the origin of the SWOT analysis, or the previous version of SWOT analysis, was force field analysis, which was given by Kurt Lewin. So he is the author who gave force field analysis. Now, with the passage of time, number of scholars came and they modified the force field analysis and named it as SWOT analysis, which we study at present. Just remember this fact. It may definitely come in your MCQ. Now, for doing SWOT analysis, you have to use this kind of diagram. Here you can see that internal factors are written, strengths and weakness. Here you can see that external factors are written down, opportunities and threats. So positive factors are your strengths and opportunity. These are positive factors. So if the organization has strengths and they have opportunities in the environment, this is definitely something that can boost the performance of any organization. And so they are considered as positive factors. And negative factors are written here, weakness and threats. So weakness and threats are those kind of factors which, if present in the organization environment, that can hamper or come in a way of organization performance. Now they have done the SWOT analysis of a company, Amazon. So herein they have written all the strengths of Amazon. Amazon have a good brand identity. They have the pioneer advantage. They are the one who comes up with something innovative first in the market. They have cost advantage. They can do or they can manage all their activities as less cost, and they are focusing on continuous improvement in their performance. The weakness is that their business does not allow them to gain high profit margins because they offer huge amount of discounts in order to stay competitive. So profit margins are very less. And seasonality, that most of the product that Amazon sell have a seasonal demand. So now Diwali is coming, so they'll sell more. And during slack season, their demand is not so much. So that's a problem. That's their weakness. Opportunity is external thing. So now that we see that there is demand of e-commerce business now, customers are finding it very convenient to order online. So this is an opportunity for Amazon. More and more customer will join Amazon in future. Continuous increase in awareness of its own branded products and services. Customer are now getting awareness about the Amazon products that Amazon manufactures and sell. Expansion of the local businesses. More of local businesses are joining hands with Amazon, and they will do that in future also. And that way, the other opportunities are given. And threats are something in the external environment which are not favorable enough. So loss of profits due to low profit margin, a patent infringement is a kind of a threat that Amazon faces. E-commerce industry has its own barriers and cyber security issues. So this was just an example. Definitely this may not come in your MCQ pattern, but just we had a quick rush through this topic, right? So this was all about Amazon SWOT analysis, and they have given SWOT analysis of various other companies. So herein they are discussing about SWOT analysis of Coca-Cola. Yes, SWOT analysis of Coca-Cola. And again, they have done SWOT analysis of Skoda. So that way, they are discussing SWOT analysis of various organizations that you may not read. That's okay if you don't read that. Now let us understand as to what is TOS analysis. We already understood what is SWOT, and now we are studying what is TOS. Now, if you see that, you will think that it is just a reversal of SWOT analysis, but no, TOS is much more than what is SWOT analysis. TOS matrix is considered as superior to SWOT analysis. Now, this matrix is developed by Virich. The proper name is Heinz Virich. So the full name is Heinz Virich. Heinz Virich is the person who developed the TOS matrix in 1982. And TOS is the next step to SWOT analysis. So the first step of TOS analysis is to do SWOT, and the second step is to do the TOS analysis. So this is the sequence. Now this matrix, how it is superior to SWOT? Because this matrix also help you to generate various alternative strategies. Now I will make you understand this in detail. See, the difference between the SWOT and TOS analysis. So TOS analysis starts with doing external analysis. In SWOT analysis, so far as SWOT is concerned, we first do internal analysis and then we do external analysis. But in case of TOS, we first do external analysis and then we do internal analysis. This is the first difference. So TOS analysis starts with analysis of your external environment. You find out various threats in your environment. Then you find out various opportunities in your environment. These threats and opportunities can be found out by doing proper analysis of your external environment, including the analysis of your economic environment, social environment, political, demographic, technology, market, and of course, competition. So if you analyze your external environment, you will get to know about your external environment. And to find out the opportunities and threats, to analyze your external environment is first step of your TOS matrix. And in the second step, you will find out your strength and weakness by analyzing your internal environment. Now, as I already told you, TOS is not just the rearrangement of the SWOT analysis. It is not just the reversal of SWOT. It is much more. They are writing the same thing once again. The SWOT analysis starts with the evaluation of internal weakness and strengths, and then decides the way the internal strength and weakness can be used to harness the external opportunities and threats. So in SWOT analysis, you first go with finding your internal strengths and weakness, and then decide as to how you will use your internal strength and weakness to get maximum benefit of your external threats and opportunities, right? But in TOS analysis, you first find out your opportunities and threats. You first analyze your external environment, and then you generate the series of alternatives based on the analysis of your internal strength and weakness. You first find out your opportunities and threats. You get a proper understanding about what is the situation of your external environment, and then you decide various strategies that you will use to get the maximum benefit of your opportunities and threats by using your internal strength and weakness. Now, according to Michael Watkins of Harvard Business Review, focusing on threats and opportunities first help to lead to the productive discussion about what is going on in the external environment, rather than getting bogged down in the abstract discussion about what is good, what the company is good at or bad at. So according to him, proper understanding about the external environment helps the managers to indulge into healthy discussions and debates. Managers are not only confined to what is good or bad in the organization itself. If they first look at the external environment, their mindset or their thought process would be broadened. Now again, therefore, they are saying that TOS is not just the reversal of SWOT analysis, but it is a tool for strategy generation and selection. Now, this is the important way in which TOS is different from SWOT. SWOT analysis only help us to get the idea about our SWOT, right? It only help us to get the idea of about our strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. And therefore, SWOT is known as audit and analysis tool. You audit your environment, and then you come to conclusion as to what is your present situation. But the TOS analysis moves one step ahead. TOS analysis also help you to generate various alternatives that you would use in order to take maximum benefit of your situation. So that is why it is said that SWOT analysis is just a planning tool. It only help you to get the idea about your current situation. But your TOS analysis is the action tool, because it also help you to decide various strategies on the basis of combination of your internal and external factor. So you combine your internal and external factor, and you also decide the strategies that you will use in order to take benefit of your situation. So I hope you get the difference between SWOT and TOS. I'll just quickly list here once again. So SWOT starts with internal analysis and TOS start with external analysis. So this is the first difference. Now, SWOT analysis only help us to get the idea of about our strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. TOS analysis also help us to get the idea of about our situation, our strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. Plus, it also help us to generate various strategies that we will use to take the benefit of this situation. I think I have repeated this topic more than once so that you can understand, right? Who can use SWOT or TOS analysis? Who can use SWOT or TOS analysis? So first thing, we should understand that these two metrics are not just meant for top level management. Any department, any division, for any product, for any function, if you want to make strategy, you can definitely use these tools. Even an individual person, while making the future strategies for themselves, they can use these two tools, right? Now, why SWOT and TOS analysis? So this thing is already discussed, because while by doing SWOT analysis, you get proper idea about your opportunities, threats of your external environment. You also get the idea of about your strength and weakness, and by getting the proper idea of about your environment, you can make proper strategies, you can take sound decisions. So this was all about the discussion. Now we look at the various strategies that I was talking about that TOS analysis help us to make. So as I already told you that SWOT analysis focuses first on internal environment, and TOS matrix takes the another route. It first focuses on your external environment. It first find out your threats and opportunities in the environment. Now, TOS analysis does not stop there. After finding your external opportunities, threats, and internal strengths and weakness, it then combines your internal environment with your external environment, and there we get 4 points. We get 4 points of trade-off when we combine our internal and external environment, and these are those 4 points. Here we are combining our internal environment with our external environment. So it is possible that the organization has enough strength and there are opportunities in the environment. So we get the first combination, which is SO. SO is strengths and opportunities. Now, whenever the organization have strengths and there are opportunities in the environment, what they should do, what should be their strategies? I already told you that TOS analysis also help us to decide our strategies. So if the organization falls in this cell, what their strategy should be? Definitely, the organization should make maximum use of their strengths and exploit the opportunities of the environment, takes maximum benefit of the opportunities of the environment. And the strategy for this position, when the organization is into this cell, the strategy is maxi aggressive strategy. The strategy of this cell is aggressive strategy. Now, aggressive means what? Maxi. Maxi is nothing but maximum use of your strength and maximum use of your opportunities. So this strategy is used for SO, where you would take maximum benefit of your strength and maximum use of your opportunities. Now, if the organization falls in this cell, where the organization have weakness in the internal environment and opportunities in the external environment. So the combination is WO. When the organization has weakness in the internal environment and opportunity in the external environment, organization should find out the ways to overcome or minimize their weakness and take the maximum benefit of the opportunities. That means they should mitigate the weakness and they should exploit their opportunities. And so the strategy that we use here is maxi mini. Now, maxi mini is nothing but maximum use of your, the strategy is not maxi mini here. Okay, the strategy here is min max. You have to minimize your weakness and you have to take maximum benefit of the opportunity. And so the strategy here is mini max or the competitive strategy. For WO, the strategy is competitive strategy. And if the organization falls in this cell, where there are strengths in the organization internal environment, but there are threats in the environment, the combination is ST. So when you have strength in the environment, in the internal environment and threat in the external environment, organization should take maximum benefit of their strengths and try to minimize the threats in the environment. And so the strategy is maximum use of your strength and minimization of your threats. So the strategy is maxi mini. The strategy is conservative strategy. Conservative strategy goes for ST. And last, when the organization have weakness in the internal environment and threats in the external environment, the organization should try to minimize the weakness and they should also try to minimize the threats. The combination is WTO and strategy is min or mini. And this strategy is known as defensive strategy. Defensive strategy is used for WT combination. I hope you understand. So these are 4 different strategies suggested by your TOS matrix. Aggressive strategy is used when you have SO, that is maximum use of your strength and maximum exploitation of your opportunities. Maxi mini is used when you have strengths and threats. So you have to take maximum use of your strength and minimize your threats. Min max is used when you have weakness in the internal environment and strength in the and opportunities in the external environment. So you have to minimize your weakness and take maximum benefit of opportunity. Min is used for WT. Now we'll understand all these strategies in detail. Now the first strategy is aggressive strategy. Aggressive strategy is used for SO combination, where you have to take maximum benefit of your strength. You have to take maximum benefit of your strength and you have to get the maximum exploitation of the opportunities facing the environment. Because everything is positive, the organization can go for expansion It can diversify into new business. So here the organization in the aggressive strategy, the following actions can be taken. Organization should try to capture the opportunities of the environment. It should try to strengthen its position more in the market. It should take over the organization having the same profile, that is, it should take over its competitors using its strength. It should concentrate on its products that are very competitive in the marketplace. And that way, the organization should exploit both the benefits. They should exploit both the strong sides, their strengths, and also the opportunities of the environment, and improve its position in the market. Now, the second strategy is your conservative strategy, which is used for ST combination. ST combination, herein we use our maximini strategy, which is your conservative strategy. Here, the organization have strengths in the internal environment. They have high internal potential, but the external environment is very unfavorable. There are threats in the environment. And so the organization needs to overcome its threats by the use of its strength. And for this, various actions could be taken. The organization should focus on its strength more. It should focus more on the strong side in order to reduce the threats. The organization can focus on those products which are very successful in the market. They should focus on those market segments which are successful and within their strengths. They should try to reduce the cost. They should try to be more competitive in the marketplace. They should develop new products which will minimize the threats. They should search for new markets where there is less threats. All this can be done with the use of your strengths. Then we have competitive strategy, which is minimax strategy, which is used when we have weakness in the internal environment and opportunities in the external environment. And so this is where the weakness dominate our strength. We have more weakness than strengths in our internal environment, and still we have opportunities in the external environment. So organization should definitely try to minimize its weak side and try to develop strengths so as to exploit the opportunities of the external environment. And to do that, organization can take following actions. They should try to accumulate financial resources. They should try to improve their commercial resources. They should try to improve their products so that their products become more competitive in the marketplace. They should try to improve their productivity, reduce wastage, reduce cost, and they try to remain competitive. They should make kind of a competitive strategy. So this all should be done. Finally, we have defensive strategy, where the organization has to defend its position, or else the organization's survival will be endangered. And this is where the organization faces negativity in the internal and external environment. You have weakness in your internal environment and threats in your external environment. So everything is unfavorable, and the organization should do something so as to take the maximum benefit of its strength. So as much strength as possible it possesses, it should try to minimize its weakness, and it should try to minimize the threats of the environment. If the organization is unable to do so, organization may have to go for liquidation and close down its operation altogether. So this is a position that every organization will try to avoid, because this is very dangerous position. The survival of the organization itself is threatened. The organization in the defensive strategy can take following action. It can gradually withdraw. It can withdraw all those products which are not providing enough profits. It should go for cost reduction. It should go for reduction of the productive ability. It should minimize the production level. It should cease the investment in all those activities which are not giving enough profits. So herein the focus of this strategy is to ensure survival of the organization and counteract the weakness and threats that the organization is facing. So just remember, even if you are not remembering the details, just remember which strategy is for which combination. The names of the strategy, the aggressive, defensive, conservative, and competitive. The names of the strategy and which strategy is used for which combination of TOS matrix. So this was all about your TOS. Now, there are various case studies that they have given for TOS analysis as well, but we have not to read that, right? Even if you don't read that, it's okay. Now we have one more answer, which is important, and that is PERT and CPM. PERT and CPM. PERT is Program Evaluation Review Technique and CPM is Critical Path Method. And both these are the methods or techniques of project management. Now, in any organization, large-scale projects goes on continuously. And the manager is responsible for coordinating the various activities which goes on in these projects. Every project consists of minute details that the manager has to take into consideration. There are a number of activities which the manager have to coordinate in order to ensure that the project is running smoothly and the project is completed on time. Managers have to prepare a proper realistic schedule of the activities. Now, which activity in the project would be done first, who will do that, and that kind of planning is to be done by the manager. And also the manager has to continuously review the activities of project. They have to monitor what all is going on in the project. Now, to handle any project, definitely it's a difficult task. And so managers usually take the help of project management techniques. Now, project management techniques are nothing but the smart way or the systematic way with the help of which you can plan the activities that will go into the project. You can schedule as to when which activity will take place. You can then, on the basis of that planning, you can execute the activities as planned. You can continuously monitor and control various activities that are going on in the project. So if you do everything that goes on in the project in a proper planned way, this will help you to complete your project smoothly and attain the goals according to the time decided in your plan. Now, PERT and CPM are the two complementary techniques. That means they are used almost together whenever you opt for project management to handle projects. Now, these two techniques are network-based scheduling method. Remember this, these two techniques are network-based scheduling methods. That means you draw a kind of a network diagram. A network diagram is nothing but a kind of a diagram where you show the activities in a connected manner. So this kind of diagram where you show the flow of the activities, first activity, then second activity, then third activity, and fourth activity. This kind of connections where you show in a form of diagram is a network-based diagram. So for doing PERT and CPM, you have to draw these kind of diagrams, and these diagrams exhibit the flow and sequence of various activities and events that goes on. And with the help of network, you can easily show and display how various activities will be coordinated with each other. Now, there is difference between these two terms, activities and events. You can see this diagram. You can see this diagram. So I'll just draw it once again, a proper diagram, and make you understand the difference between activity and event. Now, supposingly to complete a project, you have to do three activities. Three activities are needed, A, B, C. Now, activity is any action which requires a time and cost, which requires efforts. So to complete any project, you have to do certain activities which will involve your time, effort, and cost, right? So A, B, C are three activities. Now, the start point and the end point of any activity is known as event. So supposingly I draw a diagram. So first we will start activity A. So activity A starting point is denoted by 1 and the ending point is denoted by 2. This is activity A, and this 1 and 2 are nothing but event. 1 and 2 are event. Now after completing activity A, will start activity B. So it will start activity B. Activity B will start from event 2 and end at event 3. And then we'll start activity C. Activity C. This is activity C, which is shown by arrow, and event that would go on for completing activity C is 3 and 4. So 1 and 2 are the event to complete activity A, 2 and 3 for activity B, 3 and 4 for activity C. So I hope you understand the difference between activity and event. These are activities. Activities involve cost and time. Event does not involve cost and time. Event are just the starting and the end points of any activity. Now the next difference between the difference between the PERT and CPM. PERT First of all, you should remember the full form. PERT is Program Evaluation Review Technique, and CPM is Critical Path Method. PERT was developed by US Navy in 1950. US Navy was doing this project of developing a nuclear submarine. That was their project, and to handle that project, they used PERT technique, but they also used CPM. Therefore, we can say that PERT is a technique which is developed by US Navy in around 1950s while developing nuclear submarine project. Whereas if you talk about critical path method was developed by DuPont. DuPont is a company which is credited with development of critical path method, and more specifically, the two persons which were responsible for critical path method development are Morgan Walker of DuPont and also James Kelly of Remington Rand Company. So these are the two persons who are responsible for development of CPM. CPM, Morgan Walker of DuPont and James Kelly of Remington Rand, right? Whereas PERT is developed by US Navy, I already told you. Now, PERT and CPM are the methods which are used for planning and execution of various projects. So, variety of projects can be handled by using your PERT and CPM. So, the projects that you can handle by using PERT and CPM are whenever you want to construct a new plant, new factory, any kind of research and development of new product. This is a project. Whenever NASA plans for space exploration, they use these techniques. Any movie production use these techniques. When you want to build a ship, or when government is developing a new weapon system, relocation of major facility, relocation of one factory from one place to the another place, development of nuclear reactor, maintenance of reactor, installation of management information system, or conducting an advertisement campaign. All these are projects. All these projects cannot be completed in any by just one activity. They involved series of activities which are to be done one after another, and that's why you have to plan all those activities. You have to decide which activity will be done first, which activity will be done later on, how much time the activity will take, how much cost activity will take. So all these have to be planned, and for that planning only you are using PERT and CPM techniques, right? Now, remember this point. CPM is nothing but a critical path method. Now, critical path is the longest path of planned jobs, activities to logical endpoints and end of the project. Just remember, CPM is the longest path of any project, longest path of any planned project. It is the longest path of any planned project. And in CPM, there are no slack time. Whenever you look at the critical path method, the activities which lie on the critical path will have no slack time. That means that all the activities on the critical path cannot be delayed at all. They do not have any surplus time. And therefore, the activities on the critical path must be done according to the schedule, or else your entire project would be delayed. Now, see, I know that you are not able to understand these technical terms, but we will take one example and then you will be able to understand all this. But just listen as to what I'm saying. CPM is the longest path, and there is no slack time of the activities which lie on the critical path, right? Now we'll look at the steps that goes on in doing PERT and CPM, and then we'll take an example that will help you to understand better what is the difference between PERT and CPM. Now, to do PERT and CPM, there are three important steps that we have to perform. Now, first, for every project, you have to find out what all activities that are to be done to complete this project. You have to identify all the activities, and you have to distinguish various activities that are required to be done to complete any project. So you should make the list of activities that you will do in order to complete the project. After making list of the activities, you should set the order of precedence. That is, you should determine which activities will be done first and which activity will be done later on. Because not all activities can be done together. There are certain activities which should be completed first before the other activities could start. Supposingly you want to manufacture something. So first of all, you need to accumulate raw materials. Then and then only you can start manufacturing. So accumulation of raw material, purchasing of raw material is the first activity which will precede the manufacturing of garments. So that way you have to decide which activity will come first and which activity will come later on. So this is your second step. After you have done this, then have to prepare a network diagram. You have to prepare a graph which will show all the activities, which will list the preceder and the succeeding activities. This diagram is known as project graph or arrow diagram. So these are three activities, three steps that you have to perform while doing PERT and CPM. Prepare the list of activities, decide which activity will be done first and which will be done later on. And on the basis of your analysis, prepare a proper diagram. Now we'll look at the example of PERT and CPM. See, we will draw the PERT chart and CPM chart for this particular example. Herein you can see that the company is having the project of preparing budget. Preparation of budget is also one kind of projects, and various activities goes on to prepare a project or to prepare a budget. Now these are various activities. These are various activities which will go on in preparation of budget. From we have activity A, B, C, D, and E, 5 activities, and these are events. Event 1 and 2 will complete activity A, 2 and 4 will complete activity B, 2, 3 will complete activity C, 3, 4 will complete activity D, and 4, 5 will complete activity D. So these all are events and these are activities, right? Description. So what is event? What is activity A? What is the first step of preparation of your budget? You have to forecast your sales. First of all, you will forecast your sale. You will forecast the price at which you will make sale. On the basis of your sales forecast, you will prepare production schedule, because first of all, you will determine how much units will be sold. What is the demand in the market? On that basis, you will decide your production. And then on the basis of your production schedules, you will decide the cost of production as to what will be the cost of raw material, labor. That will depend upon your production schedule. So first you will determine your production schedule, then you will determine your cost of production, and finally you will prepare the sales and production budget. So now which department is responsible for which activity? Sales department is responsible for activity A and B. C activity is responsibility of production department. D activity is responsible for responsibility of accounting, and finally budget is prepared by budgeting department. Now we have the time that will go on in performing various activity. So activity A will take 14 days. Forecasting of sales will take 14 days. Forecasting of price of sale will take 10 days. Preparation of production schedule will take 7 days. Costing production will take 4 days. Preparation of budget will take 10 days. So total 45 days will go in doing the task. Now we have the complete detail. We have made list of activities. We have decided the preceding and the succeeding activity. The first 2 steps are done. Now we have to do the third step of preparation of chart. So this is the chart. Herein you can see that first activity is activity A. Activity A is the first activity, and it will take 14 days, and it will start from event A and end at event B. So event A, events are always shown in a circle. Please remember, events are always shown in a circle, and activity are shown by a line with arrow. So that is a proper presentation of an event. Event are shown by circle and activities are shown by arrow and line, right? So now event A will start from, activity A will start from event A and complete at event B, and it will take 14 days. So time that an activity will take is written above. Now at event B, activity A will complete, and from event 2, event activity B and C can start. So you can see that from event 2, activity B and C will start. So for completing activity B, the event is 2, 4. So you can start from 2 and go till and make a line till event 4, and this is activity B, which will take 10 days. And then for C activity will also start from event 2 and will go till event 3. Will go till event 3 and this will take 7 days. This is activity C. And from 4 and then activity D will start. Activity D will start when activity C is completed. Activity C will complete at event 3 and then activity D will start from 3. From 3 activity D will start and will end at event 4. So from 3 to 4, from 3 to 4, from 3 to 4 we have event. From event 3 to 4 we have activity D, which will take 4 days. So you can see 3 4 event. 3 4 event is for activity D. So that is, and then after completing of activity D we have activity E, which will start when activity D is completed. Activity D will complete at 4 and then from 4 to 5 we will have activity E. From event 4 to event 5 we will have activity E, and which will take 10 days. So this way you have made a proper PERT and CPM chart. You have made a PERT chart which is showing the diagrammatic presentation of various activity. This shows that after completion of activity A, activity B and C can start together. Activity B and C can start together after completion of activity A. Activity A will complete at event 2 and B and C can start together. B and C can start together after completion of activity A. And after completion of activity C, activity D will start. Activity D will start after completion of activity C. And after completion of activity D, activity E will start. So that is the way in which you had drawn your PERT chart. So this is nothing but your PERT chart. And usually the PERT chart is prepared on the basis of the 3 kinds of assumptions. See, all the things that are written here are just assumptions. These are just your assumptions. These are just your predictions. It is a normal prediction that the sales forecasting will be done in 14 days. Pricing of sales will take 10 days. Though reality can be much different, but we had tried to predict it because this all things we are doing for future, and all these things cannot be predicted with utmost certainty. So all these are just assumptions, right? And PERT assumptions are usually 3 way. While doing PERT analysis, we take 3 kinds of assumptions. We make assumptions for 3 kinds of period. We make assumption, we take optimistic assumption, the time period in which the task will be completed if everything goes on in our favor. That is optimistic assumption. We take pessimistic assumption, that is a time period that activity will take in case everything goes against us, everything unfavorable things take place. And we also take most likely assumptions, most likely assumption, that is the most practical in most practical situation, what time will be taken in doing these activities. So usually we make a 3 PERT chart for optimistic time period, pessimistic time period, and most likely time period, because as I already told you, we cannot predict future with utmost certainty, and that's why we try to prepare 3 different scenarios and make predictions for 3 different scenarios and prepare 3 PERT chart. So I hope now you understand what is PERT chart. Now we'll understand what is critical path method. Critical path, I already told you, is the longest path in the PERT chart. So after drawing your PERT chart, you will come to know about your CPM. CPM is derived from your PERT chart. Now, if you look at this diagram, we have 2 paths going on. The first path from 1 to 5, from event 1 to event 5, we can reach from 2 different paths. We can go from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and from 4 to 5. This is your one path. And if you follow this path comprises of activity A, B, and C. And this path, if you total the time taken on this path, this is 14 plus 10 plus 10. The total is equal to 34. This is your first path. And the second path for reaching from 1 to 5 would be, you go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, from 3 to 4, and from 4 to 5. This is your second path. And on this path, the activities are A, C, D, E. A, C, D, E. And the total of the activities on this path is 14 plus 7 plus 4 plus 10. So 14 plus 7 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. 25 plus 10 is 35. 35. So we have prepared two paths. One path was 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 5, and the other path was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first path was taking 34 days and the second path was taking 35 days. Now the second path is actually the longest path. And I already told you critical path is nothing but the longest path in the PERT chart. And therefore, this path from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the longest path, which is taking 35 days. This is nothing but the critical path. This is the critical path. And why do we find critical path? See, if the activities which are on the critical path are completed on time, then and then only you can complete your project on time. If any activity on the critical path is delayed, then your entire project would be delayed. So you have to keep into consideration that the activities A, C, D, and E are completed on time. You can take a rest for activity B because that is not lying on critical path. Our critical path is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was our critical path. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 4 is not our critical path. So you can delay this activity, but you cannot delay A, C, D, E. You can delay activity B, but you cannot delay the other activities because those activities lies on the critical path. So that is the difference between PERT and CPM. PERT tells you the diagrammatic presentation of the activities that goes on in the project, the starting and end points of various activities. It also shows which activities to be completed first, which activity will be done later on. And CPM shows the longest path or the most critical path on which various activities are lying, and those activities should be completed on time if you want to complete your entire project on time. So this was your PERT and CPM. This you should read on your own. Just give it a brief read. Not very important. Just give it a brief read. Now we'll understand the difference between the PERT and CPM. What is the difference between PERT and CPM with the help of this chart? So PERT is nothing but program evaluation review technique, and CPM is critical path method. PERT is a project management technique which is mostly used to handle all those projects which comprises of uncertain activities. Now, PERT is mostly used for all those projects wherein the activities are very uncertain. You cannot predict with most certainty as to what time, what activities will go on and what time will be taken by those activities. And this is usually the case wherein you are dealing with research and development kind of project. Whereas CPM is used to find out the longest path. And CPM is a statistical technique which is usually used whenever you are dealing with those projects where the activities and the time that will take for doing all those activities in a project is known with certainty. So this is usually the case with construction project, because construction kind of project are almost repetitive in nature, and you can tell with most certainty as to what activity will go on and how much time will be taken in different activities. Whereas I already told you, PERT is usually useful for uncertain kind of projects such as research and development projects, which are highly non-repetitive in nature and nothing can be said with utmost certainty. Now, what is the focus of PERT? On what? What is the focus of PERT? PERT technique usually focuses on time. Time is the focus area of PERT. With the help of PERT chart, you can determine what activities will go on and how much time those activity will take. Whereas in CPM, our focus is not only on time, we also focus on the cost that the activities will take to complete. Now, PERT focuses on various events. I already told you what is event, and CPM focuses on activities. PERT follows a probabilistic model. It is because I already told you that PERT is usually for for those projects which have uncertain activities. So you cannot say anything with utmost certainty. Everything depends upon probability. And so you prepare three scenarios. You predict for three scenarios. You predict for optimistic scenario. You predict for pessimistic and most likely scenario. Whereas CPM is used for those projects which are repetitive in nature, where activities are certain, and so everything can be determined with utmost certainty. So that follows deterministic model. Focus is on time in PERT, and here focus is on time and cost both. PERT is usually useful when you want to focus, you want to predict the time that goes on in the activities with high precision, because activities are uncertain and you want to predict the time that goes on in doing all those activities with utmost precision. So you follow PERT. In CPM, we do not care much about time, because time is something that we already know, because activity is very repetitive in nature. So even the reasonable estimate of time is enough for us to do that project. So that way, PERT is useful when you want to predict your time with utmost certainty. And in CPM, we already know the time, and so prediction is not a problem. Reasonable estimate will also work. In PERT, activities are very unpredictable, whereas activities are predictable in case of CPM. And in PERT, we do not make any difference between critical and non-critical activities, but in CPM, we make difference between critical activities, which are very important to complete the project on time, and non-critical activities that can be delayed and which will not affect the project completion time. So PERT is usually useful for research and development kind of projects, and CPM is usually useful for civil construction or construction kind of projects, which are usually repetitive in nature. Just try to read these points of differences that will make your concept more clear. Now, what are the advantages of doing PERT and CPM? So advantages, first of all, if you go for PERT and CPM techniques, definitely the managers, if they are using this technique, they will have to plan the activities in detail. They will have to plan everything from beginning to end. They will have to analyze the various factors that will affect the progress of the plan. And therefore, if you follow these techniques, it ensures that you are doing everything according to plan. Now, second thing, this techniques also help manager to forecast what would be the impact if the schedule that they have decided is not followed. So you can very well see the impact of the delay in various activities, because you have predicted everything in advance. You know, if one activity is delayed, what other activities would be delayed. So you can get a rough estimate about what would be the impact of delay in various activities on the other activities. And on the basis of that prediction, you can take various preventive actions to ensure that those kind of delays does not occur. And these techniques also help you to present your data in a proper and precise manner, because you are making graph, you are showing the relationship between various activities. Graph also makes it very easier to understand and evaluate various activities. I already told you that if you go for PERT, then you prepare three estimates of the time that will take to complete the projects: the pessimistic, the optimistic, and the most likely time. And therefore, you are prepared to deal with any kind of uncertainties you have, because you are making three estimates. That way, you are trying to forecast the time with utmost precision. And fifth is, while doing PERT and CPM, you have to take the opinions and you have to discuss the projects, the time taken that would be taken to complete the projects with various persons that will be involved. And therefore, these techniques results into improved communication, because you have to contact with various parties to prepare or to use these techniques. So you will come into contact with the designers of the project, the contractors, the project managers, the employees. So all this will result into constant communication with the various parties that will be involved in the completion of the projects. So because of these communication, everybody will understand what are the activities which require high priority. and what would be the impact if we ignore these activities, and what are the activities which can be ignored without having any impact. So these are the advantages of PERT. First advantage was that managers will do everything according to the planning. Managers can see the impact of the changes in the schedule on different activities. Managers are able to present the data in a precise and clear manner with the help of graph. PERT, if you go for PERT, you prepare three estimates for three different scenarios, and therefore you are able to predict the uncertain activities with utmost precision. You have to communicate constantly with various parties while doing PERT and CPM, and this results into improved communication. Everybody gets clarity as to what all activities are important and that should not be delayed. Limitations of PERT. See, like any other sophisticated technique, this technique is also very sophisticated and complicated, and so you will have to take the help of experts, and therefore this becomes very costly compared to the other traditional methods that we use, because these methods require high degree of planning and you have to concentrate on minute details, and therefore lots of time and manpower resources are used to prepare and implement these techniques. So that's why this becomes very costly. And PERT technique is not useful where the tasks are repetitive and simple. There you can use CPM, but PERT cannot be used. PERT is used only for those activities where the activities are highly uncertain and unpredictable. So where the activities are simple and predictable, PERT cannot be used. And again, uncertainty about the estimate of time and resources due to it being based on assumptions. See, PERT again is based upon assumptions. You are only assuming that these all activities will be undertaken, and so much of time would be taken to complete each and every activity. But again, future is highly uncertain. It is possible that all your predictions may go wrong. So that kind of risk is always there when you are dealing with future activities, right? So, so the three limitations of PERT are that future is uncertain. So even if you try to predict it, it is possible that all your predictions may go in vain. It is very costly because you have to take the help of experts. And third, it is not suitable when the activities are repetitive and simple in nature. So this was all about your PERT and CPM. So just go through this lecture once again. And if you still face any doubts, you can ask me. Thank you.